Picture this for a second. A tennis match with no ranking points. No trophy, no prize money on the line, priced at just $30 a ticket. And somehow every single one of the 23,771 seats inside Arthur Ashe Stadium disappeared days before a ball was even served. And the reason behind that madness has a name. And that name is Alex. Because what happened to the resale market for those $30 tickets in the 72 hours leading up to Thursday, August 27th, is the kind of story the US Open organizers never saw coming when they built this event as a casual, low-stakes exhibition. So let's rewind to understand how we even got here. Back to Monday, August 24th. The morning the new WTA rankings were released, and Alex's name locked into a career-high spot at world number 18. And if that wasn't enough for 1 week, the very next day, she stepped onto a US Open show court for mixed doubles alongside Felix Auger-Aliassime and absolutely dismantled her opening round opponents 6-2, 6-1, and somewhere in that same 48-hour stretch. While everyone else was watching seedings and bracket predictions, the organizers of US Open Fan Week quietly discovered that Arthur Ashe Stadium, the single largest tennis-only venue on the entire planet, had sold out completely for an exhibition where literally nobody walks away with a trophy. And to understand why that's such a strange thing to witness, you have to understand what this event was actually supposed to be. Because Stars of the Open was designed from the beginning as nothing more than a relaxed, pre-tournament showcase, 4 featured names, $30 to get in the door, proceeds going toward the USTA Foundation. Basically a low-pressure way for fans to soak in some Grand Slam atmosphere before the real tournament even begins. And the 4 names on that card were Fonseca, Tien, Jovic, and Alex, 3 Americans and 1 Filipina, making her the only non-American woman on the entire bill. And here's the thing, the organizers clearly expected her to sell tickets. That's exactly why she was booked. But nobody in that planning room expected her to sell out the biggest tennis stadium on Earth entirely on her own. Because according to marketplace tracking that circulated widely across Filipino sports coverage, resale prices for these seats reportedly climbed as high as $140. More than 4 times the original face value, and by that point, the cheaper seats were already long gone. Which tells you everything about the gap between what the tennis establishment thought this event was worth and what an entire fan base decided it was actually worth. And if you go back to what the USTA published on its own official channels, the event is listed plainly. Stars of the Open, Thursday, August 27th, 6 p.m. Eastern, Arthur Ashe Stadium, entry starting at $30. And that price point tells you exactly what kind of night this was meant to be. An accessible, family-friendly evening designed to bring casual fans through the gates for a taste of the big stage before the real drama starts. And that was the plan right up until Filipino fans found out exactly who was headlining. And within a week, accessible was no longer the word anyone would use to describe getting a seat. Because by the week of August 18th, word had already started spreading through every corner of Filipino sports media, from small community pages in Manila to diaspora groups scattered across New Jersey and New York. And the message across every single feed was identical, sold out. 23,771 seats. Roughly the population of a small town, claimed for an event that hands out no ranking points, no trophy, and no prize money to whoever wins. Just the chance to watch a 20-year-old from the Philippines walk out as the headline act inside the most famous tennis stadium in the world. And to put that into perspective, historical exhibitions at Arthur Ashe during Fan Week typically pull somewhere between 8,000 and 15,000 fans on a good night. So, a genuine capacity sellout days in advance isn't just impressive, it's borderline unheard of, and honestly, this is where credit belongs to the people who saw it coming long before anyone with a microphone did. The Filipino diaspora in New York and New Jersey The sports desks back in Manila that have been calling her a future headliner since her run in Miami back in 2025. While most of the mainstream tennis press was still cautiously describing her as a promising up-and-comer, the people actually buying tickets already understood the assignment. And if you zoom out and look at the pattern building underneath all of this, it starts making even more sense because back in early August, reports out of the National Bank Open in Toronto described her opening match selling out a 10,000-seat show court entirely on its own. Then, on August 3rd in Washington, she walked off the court holding her very first WTA Tour title after taking down world number 3 Jessica Pegula in a match that ended 4-6, 6-4, 6-4, and from there, the story just kept climbing. Washington, then Cincinnati, then straight into New York, first a title, then a career-high ranking, then suddenly Arthur Ashe Stadium itself, and none of that trajectory feels like an accident anymore. It feels like a pattern that's been quietly repeating and getting louder with every single stop along the way. And here's where the story gets an extra layer of tension. Because the player standing across the net from her on Thursday night isn't some unfamiliar face, it's Eala August, an 18-year-old American who also hit a career-high ranking of world number 14 on that very same August 24th ranking release, and the two of them aren't rivals in the distant, unfamiliar sense. They're actually close friends on tour. They've celebrated birthdays together alongside players like Eala August's circle, including Eala August and Zeynep Sönmez, but friendship hasn't stopped August from beating Alex twice already this year. 6-4, 6-4 at Roland Garros in the first round, and 6-2, 6-2 at Queen's in the second round. So the sold-out crowd walking into Ashe on Thursday isn't just showing up to celebrate a coronation. They're showing up to watch a rematch, the third meeting between two friends, 2 prior losses sitting on the record, and one shot to rewrite that story under the lights of the biggest stage in tennis. And if that isn't enough intrigue for one night, there's also Felix Auger-Aliassime in the picture, a current ATP Top 10 player, a 2025 US Open semifinalist, a veteran who's built a reputation across his career for being measured, calm, and about as far from hyperbole as a professional athlete can get. Which is exactly why it means something when a player like that goes out of his way to sound genuinely excited. And during his media availability in Cincinnati ahead of the Open, Auger-Aliassime spoke about his mixed doubles partnership with Alex in strikingly enthusiastic terms, calling the pairing electric and saying he was genuinely pumped about teaming up with her, and coming from someone known for being low-key. That's not a throwaway compliment. That's a top 10 veteran publicly co-signing the energy of a partner who, at the time the pairing was even announced, sat outside the top 15 in the world. And then you stack that endorsement on top of an even bigger one, because the USTA itself, on American Grand Slam soil, chose to hand Alex one of only 4 coveted headliner spots on the Stars of the Open card. And there really isn't a bigger institutional stamp of approval that a non-American player can receive at Flushing Meadows. She earned that spot through her results. The organizers handed it to her because the numbers demanded it. And then the ticket market went ahead and confirmed that decision in the loudest way possible. And if you take a step back and look at the historical context here, Arthur Ashe Stadium holds 23,771 people. And back in 2021, this exact same Stars of the Open event featured a young Emma Raducanu, just weeks before she went on to win the entire US Open as a qualifier. So Fan Week has this quiet history of previewing exactly which players are about to define the fortnight that follows. And Alex is stepping into that same lineage right now, except she's doing it as the first Southeast Asian woman ever selected for this kind of billing. The first Filipina to headline the largest tennis stadium on the planet. And that's not some marketing tagline someone dreamed up for a press release. That's a category of achievement that simply didn't exist in this sport before she created it. And if you look just 72 hours past this exhibition, The picture gets even bigger because on Saturday, August 30th, the US Open singles main draw officially begins, and Alex walks into that tournament seeded 17th, while simultaneously carrying an ongoing mixed doubles run alongside Ogre Aliassime, meaning she's got two storylines unfolding at the exact same Grand Slam at the exact same time. And back home in the Philippines, the Philippine Women's Open at the WTA 125 level has already reported that its semi-final and final sessions sold out well ahead of schedule. So this pattern isn't confined to one country anymore. It's genuinely become a transcontinental phenomenon. Manila is already buying tickets for a tournament in January, and New York just finished buying every single seat for one night in August, which tells you the actual center of gravity in women's tennis fandom is quietly shifting toward a country that, just 5 years ago, barely had a professional tennis presence at all. And the ticket sales are the receipts proving it's real. But none of this happened along some smooth, uninterrupted path. Because just 8 days before Ash sold out under her name, Alex walked off a hard court in Cincinnati, having lost a genuinely rough match to Amanda Anisimova, 6-4, 4-6, 6-2. And it wasn't a clean loss either. She actually took the first set before dropping 10 of the final 12 games. A brutal, sudden collapse against one of the hottest players in the entire women's game right now. And she never tried to spin that afternoon into some hidden victory. She didn't pretend it didn't hurt. Instead, she got on a flight to New York within 24 hours, arrived to find Filipino fans already camped outside her practice courts, waiting for a glimpse of her, and leaned into two phrases in Tagalog that she's repeated across her own social media. Once it grows, it cannot be stopped. And huwag magduda, don't doubt. And just 8 days after that Cincinnati collapse, she's sitting at a career-high ranking. She's coming off a mixed doubles win, and Arthur Ashe Stadium is completely sold out with her name on the marquee. And that's the pace her story is currently moving at. $30 tickets turning into $140 resales. 23,000 seats gone for an event with 0 ranking points attached. 2 previous losses to the very friend she's about to face again. And just 8 days separating a rough collapse in Cincinnati from a coronation-level billing in Queens. And somewhere inside that single compressed week of the tennis calendar, Alex managed to do something that goes well beyond just selling tickets. She effectively rewrote what a headliner is even allowed to look like at a Grand Slam venue. And she did all of that before her actual singles campaign at the US Open has served a single point. So here's the real question, worth putting your name behind in the comments below. Does Alex finally get past Iva Jovic on Thursday night under the lights of Arthur Ashe? Or does the pressure of a sold-out 23,000-seat stadium end up working against her, handing Jovic a 3rd consecutive win in this head-to-head series? Pick your side, write down your predicted score, and be ready to defend it. Because if you're someone who already saw this run coming before the ticket numbers ever caught up to it, this is exactly the kind of channel you want to stick around for, since the next 72 hours are going to determine whether Arthur Ashe becomes the loudest home court advantage an away player has ever walked into. And every match result, every ranking shift, and every ticket market update between now and the start of the singles draw is going to be covered right here. So make your prediction now, because we're absolutely going to hold you to it once that scoreline is final.